Thoughts on step center? Seems like seems like for most levels, the ability to ID targets and shoot before crossing the threshold is not consistently there. Step center has turned into some thing. The way that we teach CQB is that if you are able to identify a target that is not in your primary sector, and you are free to engage it until you get to the threshold. You're not making any extra movements. You're not doing any extra crazy steps. That's just part of the way that it works. The split second that your barrel breaks the threshold and your primary sector is now, you have the ability to move into clearing that. You need to get off of the target that you've been engaging and start clearing your sector, because you're the only person who can do that. I think step center has turned into a thing that it was probably not originally intended to be.
The question is, I'll scroll up and find it here. It's about one-man entry, and basically are you guys a fan of a center check prior to entering the threshold? And so the way that this works, and there's a lot more that goes behind this that we teach in our class to give you the long-winded why, but we're not going to cover that here today. If the one man sees a target in depth in a room, he's cleared to engage it until the split second that it is his time and responsibility to transition to his point of domination, right? So to start clearing his sector, his primary sector. So that's when his barrel crosses the threshold. We're not a fan of any type of big looping movement where you're hanging out and trying to gain an extra view into the breach. You're going to square your shoulders up and enter the breach. During that movement, if you see a target in depth, you're clear to engage it, but you have to break off the second that it's your turn to clear your primary sector. And that is the answer. And so that may only be one round, it may be 2 rounds, it may be 3 or 4 rounds into target. But if it's only one, you have to be disciplined, you have to break off. And if you're efficient with your movements and you have your head up and you're getting a good snapshot into the room, that's fully, that gives you plenty of time to make that happen. But we're not taking an extra movement to try and bite off chunks of the room from outside the door. And there, another reason that I will cover in this is if I spend 3 extra seconds trying to engage stuff from outside of a breach over 12 rooms, that's 36 seconds or whatever. Imagine that over a big structure where the goal is to get to a hostage. So it's a hostage scenario. We're assuming a little bit more risk so that we can get to that thing that we came to save sooner. So it's about efficiency as well. So there is a little bit of assumption of risk in that, but that's the answer. What do you got on that, Zach?
Well, I mean, I 100% agree on everything you said. What I'll add on to is I think a lot of the discussion on this is a confusion in what a snapshot is and what it's not, right? It's kind of the same thing I hear sometimes people say like, hey, free flow. And it's this misconception of what free flow is, So like the purpose of a snapshot is to deal with an immediate threat and get enough visual information to make a split-second decision on where you want to go, right or left.
Mm-hmm.
Not for guys to pie off the door and read the back wall and shoot targets. There's no time for that. Number one, and in a hostage scenario, just like you said, like things start adding up. So there's this misconception on what a snapshot is. Like it's not for the one man to pause and take shots deep. It's to make a decision and deal with an immediate threat and then get the hell through the door and out of the way, get into your primary sector. So I would add that on top of everything you said, Charlie. And the thing that guys don't understand, or I shouldn't say it that way, the question that I invoke with people who ask this is like, hey man, what's your plan when someone shoots people through the wall? Do you have it? Like, what is your battle drill when you pie a door off and take 4 seconds, and the next thing you know, your 3-man gets shot, in the stack, right, 3 yards from you? Are you like, how are you dealing with that? And I hear a lot of hesitation in that. I'm like, well, if you're going to take time to pie this in a non-ballistic environment, you better have an answer for people getting shot through the walls.
Yeah.
So, Sorry, I don't want to get too much off topic, but that's what I would add on to that,
I'll
Charlie.
I'll just, that kind of brought up and great response on that. Something that I will add is that if I'm in a hallway and I'm spending 4 to 5 seconds to pie off that room, and there's 4 other doorways in the hallway, who's addressing those? So have we, on the macro, assumed more risk, trying to address the safest, trying to invent the safest way to address this one single room? And I think the answer is that we've absolutely assumed more risk. So if you look at the problem as a whole and really apply some thought to the entire assault and look at what is the safest for the officer, I think that the answer is to go in the room and to get out of the hallways and stop dancing around in the doors. And I don't think that is the answer.
I agree. Snapshot before entry could change the direction you choose to go when entering versus path of least resistance.
That's a good question, and it's not snapshot before entry; it's snapshot during entry. So don't think of the snapshot as this thing where I'm standing still, taking in information. I'm doing that on the move. It's just a term for taking in information. If I don't see anything in the corner, I go the other way. If there's something in the corner, I go that way. That's as simple as what a snapshot is. The only thing I would add to that is, immediate threat would be a portion of that, but that's going to be wildly apparent to you if that is, in your case, in your the path to your point of domination.
But and I mean, the question of can that snapshot change the direction of path of least resistance versus the greater unknown? Absolutely. The one man's up front. Like,
sure.
Would you say path of least resistance always for room entry is inferior to snapshot and number one deciding? I don't. Is it inferior? Yes, because you're not doing what's the most by having a predetermined version of which way you go in a room, path of least resistance. You're not processing information. You're making a predetermined decision. So it's going to be less efficient in clearing the room. The ability to make the decision as you're moving through the threshold is the better way, but neither one is wrong. So the main point of this as we enter the threshold during dynamic CQB is that we clear the breach and allow the team to get in unimpeded. So I'm not clogging the breach, and then I just want to do that in a predictable manner. So if I'm going in one direction, I continue in that direction no matter what the input says. So once you've committed to a direction, go that way. But path of least resistance, I think it's less efficient, but it's not a wrong technique.